y'all, come on.
Come to drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah,
Gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need.
Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch until you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nicordelai. Just type in Dr. Niq, DRNIIQ. And there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app. If you haven't already, go ahead and do it. Download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or you can just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there you have it. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast, and don't miss an episode. Happy Monday, everyone. Listen, I hope you had a wonderful weekend and you're off to the start of a good week. I know the weather was mild here in DC earlier in the day, but now the storms are rolling in, not just DC, but a number of places on the East Coast. And so if you're out there on the roads, be careful. A lot of flash flooding. I just came out of it. And so be extra careful, be extra cautious. You might remember late last week, we were remembering the life and legacy of Jewel Thayus Williams. She is the founder of the Catch One in LA. She is a beloved figure in the Black LGBTQ community. She will be sorely missed. But in classic style, we are going to celebrate the life and legacy of Jewel at the Catch One, located at 4067 West Pico, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday, July 27th. It'll be a great opportunity for reflections, for dancing, food, and a cashless bar, and it's free and open to all. And so we're going to head out there and celebrate Jewel. I'm planning to be there, and so you should plan to be there as well to lift up Jewel, who has been a crown jewel in our community for some time. All right. Now it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the Supreme Court. Another decision from the Supreme Court. Kind of makes you scratch your head. What's the Supreme Court doing? The Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to implement major education department layoffs. NBC News is reporting that the Supreme Court today allowed the Trump administration to move ahead with plans to carry out mass layoffs at the Department of Education. These are mass layoffs that were blocked by a federal judge, the conservative majority court, without any explanation, granted an emergency application from the administration that blocks the federal judge's ruling. The court's 3 liberal members objected, with Justice Sonia Sotomayor writing a blistering dissenting opinion. Quotes, when the executive publicly announces its intent to break the law and then executes on that promise, it is the judiciary's duty to check that lawlessness, not expedite it. That's what she wrote. The court's majority is either willfully blind to the implications of its ruling or naive, but either way, the threat to our Constitution's separation of powers is grave. That's what Justice Sotomayor wrote. She said the decision also rewards clear defiance of the Constitution. Sky Perryman, the chief executive and president of Democracy Forward, which is representing the coalition of groups that filed the lawsuit, called the decision devastating to public education. On its shadow docket, the court has yet again ruled to overturn the decision of 2, not 1, but 2 lower courts without argument. While this is disappointing, the Trump-Vance administration's actions to decimate a department established by Congress are still unconstitutional. And so this is where this stands. This is a big deal. This is going to impact public education across the country. We will absolutely have experts on that know a whole lot more than I do in terms of the domino effect that this will have. But make no mistake about it, this is a major win for the Trump administration, and this is a major blow to public education as we know it, And so more on that soon. But in other news, measles cases could cost the U.S. its elimination status. Here's what that means. The Huffington Post is reporting that the U.S. has reported more measles cases in the first half of this year than in any full year since 1992, raising concerns that the country could lose its measles elimination status and undo a 25-year public health victory amid declining vaccine rates. But exactly what does that risk mean, and how close is it really to happening? Well, the World Health Organization, they set the criteria for elimination status, requiring a country or defined geographic area to go at least 12 months without continuous domestic transmission of a virus. And that means that any new outbreaks during this time must come from people who contracted the virus from outside, not inside the U.S. And so under this criteria, the U.S. has until January to eliminate the nation's current outbreaks, which is a year after cases started domestically in Texas. And that's what epidemiology experts say. And so I don't remember talking a lot about measles cases over the years. I feel like we've talked more about measles cases in the last year or so than we have in most of the years I've been alive. You know, this is why public health matters. You know, for folks out there that believe that you can just run government as a business, right? That government doesn't have sort of a special role in protecting, preserving, advancing the public interest. This is what you get. This is what you get. Moving along, UC Berkeley's chancellor is headed here to D.C. for congressional grilling on campus anti-Semitism. The LA Times is reporting that UC Berkeley's top leader will face an influential congressional committee that's aligned with President Trump's political goals of reshaping higher ed by punishing campuses that he sees as bastions of leftist ideology and as institutions that have tolerated anti-Jewish hate. Chancellor Rich Lyons' appearance marks a significant moment for the university, which is under multiple federal investigations over allegations that it violated the civil rights of Jewish students and faculty. the committee Lions will face has grown from relative obscurity to one of the most rattling in the wake of U.S. campus protests over the October 7th, 2023 Hamas-led attacks in Israel and Israel's war in Gaza. And so folks are going to be glued to their screen on that. I think success from that hearing may look like coming out very different from the presidents of Harvard and MIT and UPenn. But you better believe Republicans are not going to pass up an opportunity to make an example out of the chancellor of UC Berkeley. When we come forward, we're switching gears. I'm delighted to welcome back to the show our resident immigration expert, immigration attorney, and founder of Orr Immigration Law. Alan Orr will be with us to go beyond some of the day's biggest trending headlines on the immigration front. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Alan Orr when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Why, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
Fabrice.
Fabric Talk. Hello, my love. I am your living room carpet. I see everything. I feel everything. After a while, I smell like everything, including Sir Pickles, who you snuggle with while binging that dating show you can't stop watching. So, how about we freshen things up with Fabrice Fabric Spray? Oh, and a big spray for my pals, couch and ottoman. Ah, yes, refreshing. Breathe happy, Fabrice. La 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 la.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online.
Uh-huh.
I read that Black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Hit me!
National News: The Consequence. Informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Welcome back to Alan Orr, founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm. He is our very special contributor and expert on all things immigration. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. First things first, Your Morehouse brother, my colleague, Jaron Keith Gaynor, published an article in the Grio just today entitled, "Whatever Means is Necessary, Trump Grants ICE Agents Total Authorization to Defend Against Thugs." Some folks might remember that President Trump, following his visit to Texas, where he toured some of the flood damage, he claimed to have witnessed anti-ICE protesters throwing rocks and bricks at officers driving in marked vehicles. Tremendous damage was done to the brand new vehicles, he says. "I know for a fact that these officers are having a hard time with allowing this to happen, and that it shows such total disrespect for law and order." What is President Trump up to here?
I think it's just signaling more than anything else, because one of the foundational things about ICE really is they're not supposed to be out arresting U.S. citizens unless they're like involved in smuggling or drugs. But just common law enforcement is not under the relegation of ICE, right? ICE is not part of the day-to-day policing in societies and communities. So I think part of the story that he's telling the country is that there are radical Democrats that are attacking ICE officers as they try to enforce immigration law, which is not the case. I think the case is, and we've seen the case, is that there are retaliatory measures by communities that are being imposed and being militarized. And therefore, when the ICE officers come in mass, not showing their badges, not announcing themselves, and also not sort of following general policing courtesies of saying, we are here for X, here is our warrant for X, then it causes hostility. And remember, they're in machine guns and they're decked out in full war gear. So even if there were rocks being thrown at cars, at these tanks and these machines, they're not hurting them in any way. It's more of a throwing tomatoes and that type of thing, more of a boo than it is sort of like an attack on them. But I think it's also a distraction from the comments that are sort of also moving through Congress right now, where you see Ms. Senator Padilla say, listen, this mask thing doesn't work. There's no other law enforcement agency. The judges don't wear masks. People in the Senate don't wear masks. People in the House don't wear masks. There's no reason for you to have this sort of anomaly. And that anomaly is this hidden face sort of allows for all of this crime that is happening behind the scene right now, where people are being raped and kidnapped by people who are playing like they're ICE officers. So I think it's just, it was not a good weekend for him. And therefore he needs to sort of try to change the narrative, in which some people may believe from a couple of stories where they see rocks being thrown, but on the main part, that's not what's happening.
Yeah, and what he's done since, he's directed Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and the border czar Tom Homan to instruct any Homeland Security agents, including ICE, who are on the receiving end of thrown rocks and bricks or any form of assault, as he calls it, to stop their vehicles and arrest these quote unquote slime balls using whatever means is necessary to do so. Doesn't this create confusion among law enforcement? To your point earlier, if ICE's mission is very narrow, at least it's supposed to be very narrow, is the president essentially empowering ICE to, is he giving them broad authority to police people more broadly? And how should local law enforcement take to this?
So that's federalism. There's always been that conflict, and that's what happened in California, where California said, we've got this, we've handled this before. So that's a legal issue. So the presidential power is specific based on congressional mandates. So they need to go back to the regulations and start dealing with the regulations and the powers that are given to ICE and the funding that's given to ICE. So the president, in certain circumstances, we see, much like under martial law, can make things happen that generally would not happen in the everyday, day-to-day course of someone who is a federal officer. And this are the National Guard, for example. But even with the National Guard, when the National Guard is pulled to these different places, the National Guard isn't done in law enforcement, right? The National Guard is there to assist other law enforcement. The confusion with the conversation that we're having now is that he's saying ICE is authorized to do X, Y, and Z. Many of the people we see on the street aren't necessarily ICE in a general sense, right? There's a hodgepodge of different agencies all right now working on immigration, and it'd be interesting to see exactly what their badges say, but unfortunately we can't see their faces if we don't know the rank. So it does cause confusion in the enforcement alone. What does this mean for the U.S.? Listen, if you are a United States citizen or a foreign national in any case, and there is an enforcement arena in your neighborhood and you want to do something, you can yell, ICE is here. You see that happen in stores. You see that happen across the board. Under no circumstance, right? Be it a lawyer, be you a military person, do you want to engage in any type of way that could be seen as obstructing justice, right? Throwing rocks, even though I think that the things are silly, holding the officers back, anything that could be seen as obstruction of justice. You definitely don't want to lie to an officer, right? Anything that could be seen as obstruction of justice, you do not want to do that. Your best thing to do in many cases is to record the evidence, either with your ear to pen and a paper or with your phone when something's going down, so you can show the world exactly what the circumstance is and exactly how things went down. So if things do go south or out of control, then you'll have a record of it. But I can guarantee you in almost every case, and we've seen this happen to the senator, right, in a very public forum where people should have known who he was, right, because he's like a very prominent senator from California and the first person of that descent to have that position. And you're in California, so there's only 2 senators per state. It's not like you were talking about a House rep from some small district or some local House rep who was then detained by officers. Now, this is the part that is people keep missing. By people who allowed him in the building in the first place, right? The FBI screened him into this federal business building in the first place. They knew he was there. They escorted him to the building. So the conversation that you didn't know who he was seems a little bit silly to me. And so if they're going to do that to a senator on film, guess what they're going to do to you, right? And guess the expense that you're going to have sort of fighting to get yourself released from these kind of detentions. So the best answer is to always record. And the pushback should be to call your senators, to call your operations. We've seen in community after community, Carol the waitress, Madonna, the Iranian grandmother who was in her yard who got arrested. When the community stands up and says, wait, this is uncalled for, this is not what we voted for, in some cases we see these people get released. They might not get relief, but they're getting released. And this is even in Republican, the Iranian woman who was arrested, that was in a Republican district, and the Republicans stepped in to get her out of detention.
I mean, I appreciate your advice in terms of, encouraging us to document, but again, don't obstruct the operations of law enforcement. That may be the surest way to catch a case. That may be the surest way to get even more entangled in this. It's important to note that in the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill that has now passed, it's been signed into law, it provides a record $28 billion annual budget to ICE over 4 years. It's an increase from $8 billion annually. So they are cash flush and they are on a mission. The White House has set a goal of 1 million deportations in 2025 as a part of the president's larger goal to execute the most deportations in U.S. history. How much of that goal is aspirational versus attainable?
So, I mean, I don't want to push the administration in any way, but we've sort of seen them skip due process in many cases to remove 3,000 people a day, which would get them right at 1 million if they were able to do it, depending on the cost. So, based in my conservative sort of roots, there should always be the cost benefit analysis, like how much does this cost for what are we saving? And if you're just deporting, 1 million people for 1 million people at that price tag, it doesn't seem the right cost benefit analysis when those people were waitresses taking care of the elderly and doing the gardening, because then those jobs aren't done. They have to be replaced. And that financial stability for those local communities, even if they weren't paying federal taxes, they're paying state taxes, they're paying rent, they're buying gas, they're eating food at places. So you're hurting those economies on a sort of a small scale, which is why they have focused on California, right? One of the biggest economies in the world is to come and say, let's disrupt this. Let's disrupt some of this political power in this blue state and sort of upend the economy and also scare the residents that are there. I mean, it's part of this whole message that's sort of sitting out. So we have not seen it done. The most deportations were done by President Obama. It was a little bit different because he was removing people who were at the port of entry within the time frame who were coming. So now the border is secure in a sense, but there's still a lot of military people there. And so what we understand, the total bill over 10 years is $170 billion. What would $170 billion do in our economy for things we say we don't have money for? Child, education, veterans, the unhoused. We saw them erect a detention center in Florida almost overnight for $100 million plus. We see Kristi Noem, after leaving Texas, where there was a flood and people's homes were destroyed, not looking to get them money to sort of help them rebuild or figure out how to get them stable. She's now searching around the United States to put up another type of detention